Welcome into the Creed of Crypto podcast, where we provide immersive, essential, and evergreen strategies for the novice cryptocurrency investor. How you doing? I am one half of your host, Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, Crypto Ewok. We have a lot to get into tonight. Big week in the financial markets and crypto markets as well. We had the latest CPI reading. We had FOMC today. SBF is going to jail. A whole lot more as the crypto circus continues. So, Ewok, how you taking in all the news this week, and how you doing?
Lots to take in, man. It's been good though when you hold your own keys in your own wallet, or your coins in your own wallet. Things go a little smoother for you. So, yeah,
that
doing
is
well.
correct. That is correct. Yeah, it's really just about kind of standing pat and keeping what you've already got here in this bear market, which is kind of a theme I want to touch on a little bit later. But yeah, I am Boi Crypto. You can find me on YouTube and Twitter at Boi Crypto. YouTube channel is focused on minimalism, crypto, both those things, kind of meshing them together. Check out some videos. You'll kind of get it. Ewok, let everybody know where they can find you.
I'm Crypto Ewok on Twitter, Crypto Ewok on YouTube. Yeah, I'm mostly Richard Hart product focused, but that's where I'm at.
But been in crypto for years. He is our resident crypto veteran here. So checking in on the price of Bitcoin as we start the podcast, we are just under 18K now, as we did rally above it earlier today. Bitcoin sits at 17,792 and ETH is at 1304 at the moment. So as I mentioned, we got a lot to get into, a big week in the macro picture as far as things go. If you are here and in the chat, feel free to go ahead and ask questions as we go along in the show, provide any kind of discussion topics you would like, and we will do our best to get to it. But yeah, so I guess we should start off, Ewok, with where we're at in the market. We're probably going to get to the SBF stuff and some of this disastrous hearing that's going on in Congress right now. There's been some interesting clips that have emerged the last couple of days, including a person who wants to rename crypto, as well as some more educated statements and everything in between. So we will get to that. I know you and I don't really care as much that SBF is in jail as some people that are obsessing over his every move, but we will get there. I'm frankly sick of hearing about it. But let's start with where the markets are. So, again, we already talked about where the prices are, but we're there partially because of some volatility this week with the latest CPI rating to see where inflation is, as well as the Fed meeting today, where we did get a 50-point rate hike, which pretty much everybody was expecting. But as you can see in the thumbnail, it's not all roses. I think a lot of people thought that would just be bullish news. I did too, kind of, but there's more details to look into here. So first off, Ewok, inflation came in. I think it's just the regular core inflation came in at 7.1%, which was a little bit lower than what the market was pricing in, which really just gave us kind of bullish action. But that, let's zoom out. Why are people really celebrating this? I guess so short term. This is still terrible. We're still, way up there in terms of inflation, but it is slowly but surely supposedly coming down. That's the figure that we're seeing anyway. So what do you make of how the Fed has done so far with inflation and this downward trajectory, and kind of how the markets have reacted to it since it came out yesterday?
Well, I think you were the one that told me that they're still denying that we're in a recession. And, the numbers that they give you are clearly inaccurate compared to when you look around and see the prices of everything on the shelves, prices of fuel, everywhere you look, the food is higher. It's everything. So right. I think that number of 7.1 is being extremely generous. Now, that is more interest rates as far as the housing market. That's going to, obviously tank as well. Mm-hmm. What they're trying to do is even out, and I don't know if many people know this or not, but they try and keep the rates balanced along with the unemployment ratio. That's how it kind of works. So as the rates go up, usually the unemployment also kind of balances out. So until we hit that level, I don't see it getting better, anytime soon. And as you had said, they even said pretty much we're going to go a little bit longer on these rate hikes. until they can get to that point. So that's what we're kind of the ultimate goal is to get unemployment rates back up there to kind of get this back under control. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The inflation number was definitely positive news as far as, again, what the market was pricing in. And we did see Bitcoin and the rest of the market rally pretty well yesterday after the news. And then, as you just alluded to, Ewok, with the Fed meeting actually today, there was even more rallying in the market as well. I mean, leading up, we actually went through very briefly anyway, somewhat of a resistance point. I think it was like 18.2K for BTC and smashed up through there. But it literally, like, as soon as the news came out, the market began to tank a little bit after that. And now we're down below 18K for BTC yet again. So yeah, kind of just delving in a little bit into what this 50-point rate hike really means and what some of the sentiment was from Jerome Powell. Again, yeah. So in case you're new to this whole game, so the course of 2022, every single Fed FOMC session, there has been a 75-point rate hike this year. At least I want to say the last two, maybe even three of these meetings, the market has largely priced in the 75, and this time they've largely priced in 50. We got some dovish kind of comments from Jerome Powell the last time around. So a lot of people thought that we would get this 50-point rate hike. We did, but there is, if you actually look into the PDF and the data a little bit more, and he did float this before, it looks like the overall rate hike that they want to get to is now going to be up over 5 basis points. So they're going to be doing possibly lesser rate hikes individually for longer. So we're not out of the woods yet in terms of rate hikes. I think we're likely to get one the next time around, which I believe there is another one in January. So this is going to be continuing for a longer period of time, which I think is why the market reacted pretty negatively afterwards, even though a lot of people are saying that the 50 was priced in. So it's not just the basis points, it's also the kind of future casting that the Fed and Powell are doing. And yeah, to your point earlier, Ewok, Powell did, when directly asked, at this point, I don't know how important it is whether they're saying the word recession, because we're all used to different media entities and stuff like that not really being truthful anyway. I mean,
right.
Clearly, but he still danced around it when would not say anything. He would not use the word when directly asked. So what do you make of this? I don't want to say just the rate hike, but just kind of the overall picture the Fed provided us with today. I know you don't really care about it long-term, and long-term, neither do I. I don't think anybody really should. But as far as short-term to mid-term, like where we could see prices in the markets go for the next 6 or so months, I think there's going to be an impact. So what do you make of all this with, I don't want to say a hawkish Fed, but still saying we are not out of the woods yet?
Well, we're not out of the woods yet, and crypto is no different. I think we're going to chop around here, like I said, until we see another big event that brings us down to a bottom. As for a bull run starting, it doesn't, look too good for that either. So, until we get those things in order, I don't see the prices trying to get back up. Now, that doesn't mean a bottom can't come and happen and slowly kind of work its way up, but we're not going to see any major movements, I don't think, for quite some time, at least until we get this stuff in order, until we see the levels of unemployment where it starts to balance out the inflation. So that's where I think.
And to kind of give everybody a little bit of a longer term view, this was actually a quote from Powell today. So he was asked about the possibility of a rate cut in 2023. So for all of this pendulum to start swinging back the other way as we do head into the new year, which is a mere 2.5 weeks away, he basically said, just about verbatim, he said, correct, there are no rate cuts in the SEP for 2023. So it doesn't look like they're looking to cut anything by then, or it's certainly not scheduled yet. But I mean, again, we're not even out of the woods with knowing when they're going to stop raising them and just return to normalcy. We've got 5 more percentage points, according to them, to drop in terms of inflation. So I think we're pretty much standing pat. I mean, yeah, it's a nice first step that we're no longer at the 75-point rate hikes, now. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, we are still going to be seeing this. So everybody that I think over the last week or two, and after a lot of the most horrific FTX news was kind of floating away. And, I think a lot of people, and we're going to transition into this in a moment, but with the SBF arrest, thought that maybe, okay, this story's put to bed now. It's over. It's time to go up again or something like that. And that's clearly just way too quick of a reaction for that. I'm not saying, neither of us, Ewok or I, know definitively if the bottom is in or if we're going to get another one. You and I both think we are going to see new lows again. But I think there's been this weird sentiment the last couple of weeks where people December's been mainly up. Like, we haven't really seen a lot of red here in December. It's hard to get a worse month in terms of news in the crypto markets than we had in November with FTX going belly up. I mean, do you think there is a little bit too much false hope in the market right now? Because, yeah, a lot of people, I'm not saying they think the bear market is over, but a lot of people now think the worst of it could be over just because of how terrible November was.
I think a lot of people just haven't experienced the bear market yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're right. Yeah.
It's just, there's more to come. There hasn't been what we say max pain. I don't feel it's gotten to that point yet. There's a lot of sentiment in that direction, but again, if this is your first bear market, it gets ugly pretty bad. You hear everybody say Bitcoin's dead. You hear everybody that are, on all the media outlets saying how cryptocurrency is in trouble, and you're starting to hear it now, but not quite like you will when that point actually gets here.
Right. So. Yeah, we definitely are. Yeah, it just kind of depends on the resources that you're looking at. Yeah, you're definitely getting some people, and maybe more of your like legacy finance and legacy media type people, or like the Jim Cramer types of the world and everything, saying it's dead and it's an embarrassment to be in crypto right now. And it certainly is when you're talking about like how the normies are reacting and everything. But yeah, it's we have to kind of default to you, I think, on this podcast, Ewok, in terms of what, obviously you can only speak about what previous bear markets have looked like, but what a true bottom does feel like. I mean, November was definitely a stab at it. I guess we can go ahead and transition out of this Fed stuff into the SBF, heading to the clink, as well as this hearing that he was to attend, and much to the dismay of many, he's not there. And we can kind of talk about what we've seen here over the last couple of days at this hearing. A lot of embarrassing moments, a couple of interesting moments. I've just seen some clips here and there. I know you have as well. First off, though, let's back up to the news we got a couple of days ago. I think it was Monday night. Yeah, Monday night, we officially got the notification that in the Bahamas, SBF was detained. He is going to prison. What do you think of this? I think it came to a surprise of some people that just thought he would never even see the inside of a cell. Now, we don't know what kind of treatment he's getting wherever he is. Probably lavish, as compared to other inmates. But what do you make of the arrest? And yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I was kind of surprised when I heard that he was arrested, and then once it happened, I realized that he was scheduled to testify with, I'm not even sure who it was, maybe Congress. He was going to have testimonies that he was going to give, and the minute I heard that he had gotten arrested, I'm like, oh, they're trying to keep this kid quiet because he's probably gonna, talk about Gensler and talk about all the other people that were involved heavily,
right,
with a lot of the conversations that were being had in the back rooms. So it kind of all made sense at that point. I'm not surprised now, after I sat back and looked at it. I think it's good. I mean, I really think it's good that he's been detained and getting arrested. It definitely shows that there are people looking out for, the regular investors that lost a lot of money. So it's a good thing. I think it's bullish in the sense of that, as far as some sort of regulatory things need to happen with the exchanges so that, they have more transparency on what's going on, and you can't run a $40 billion company with QuickBooks. I mean,
Yeah.
that was, brought out, and that's how they did their account. They didn't have an accountant. They were using QuickBooks to use all their, to figure out their finances. That
Right.
baffles me. So yeah, no, I think it's a good thing that he's in jail. I think it's a bad thing that he didn't get to talk about some more things. Who knows? He might have beat around the bush and not really said anything like he had done in previous interviews as well. So it's hard to say what would have come out, but I would definitely like to see Gensler take some heat for this, because
Yeah.
he definitely deserves it. They overlooked a lot of things to let this whole thing play out, and I think there was more to it. Unfortunately, the bear market, or fortunately, maybe fortunately, that it happened now rather than later, when there was 60 or 70 billion involved.
And you're probably being charitable just saying that he overlooked it. I mean, it's probably something a little bit more sinister than that, even, I think. But yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it would be nice to see, some of that come to fruition and really find out all of the inner workings. We certainly never will with everything dirty that had gone on with the FTX, drug, sex party and everything that's gone on there. But what do you make of some of the highlights that you have seen the last couple of days from this hearing with Congress? Because we've seen a lot go on, obviously not actually hearing SBF speak there. What do you make of some of the things you've seen? Because we've definitely seen some really, as usual. I mean, anytime you have like these large government entities starting to talk about crypto or decentralized finance, I mean, they clearly don't understand it very much. We've already seen it from Elizabeth Warren, obviously, in the past, who has no earthly idea. And really, like, I'm not, in no way am I forgiving these people, but I mean, a lot of them are elderly. That's just kind of the decision that we have made for some reason or they have made with a lot of these people. But they have no interest. They want to protect their own pockets, obviously. And
Sure.
it doesn't really benefit them that much to understand it. So what do you make from some of the scenes you've seen? And I really should find out like who some of these people are. I mean, I usually don't care, but like the guy that wants to rename crypto, I need to find out who that guy is. But anyway,
Yeah.
what do you make of some of what you've seen?
Like you had mentioned, Elizabeth Warren trying to push this one bill through to, I think it has something to do with not allowing people to custody or KYC when you self custody your own wallets, which is crazy to me. You have now
Right.
CZ coming out and saying, 99% of coins are lost when people try to self custody. You just have all this weird stuff. Kevin O'Leary is still sticking up for
boy.
SBF.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
He's in just as deep. They paid him $15 million. They're trying to, or he's definitely getting his money's worth out of that one. So
yeah.
There's been a couple good people. This Tom Emmer, you and I spoke about this earlier. He is making some good points, but I showed you then before that he was one of the 7 or 8 representatives to take money from his from SBF's campaign or contribution, whatever it was.
Right. One of the 7 or 8 Congress members, right?
Or Congress, not represent, either way, whatever they are, in whatever position. So I think what happened with him is he probably got caught and had to change his tune. And now he's back on the right side, probably to save face and not go down with the rest of the bunch that could possibly go down. Just like Marty says here, there's just so many corrupt elite people that are involved with this, and the education that they need to have before having these hearings is pretty in depth. They just really don't know what they're talking about, unfortunately. So
Right.
Kind of wish Richard Hart could go in and school them a little bit before they would
My
go
God.
go into their hearings and explain just anybody that has some basics. Now, I don't want a Bitcoin maxi going in there and saying Bitcoin's the only thing that matters either, because that's not right.
Yeah.
you've got to give a general perspective of the overall situation of crypto and what it means to custody your own coins and what it means to put your stuff on an exchange and give up the right to hold your own coins. So yeah, it's just been a mess. And the good thing is when these guys try to push laws through, often they don't succeed the first time. Hopefully there's enough people on the other side of the aisle that can amend things and get them headed in the right direction. So that's my hope anyway.
Yeah. So Ewok, you're referring to the 8 congressmen who, so basically the 8 of them tried to stop the SEC's inquiry into FTX back in March. 5 out of the 8 received donations directly from SBF and FTX. We don't know which of those 5 it was, but the majority of this group did. That would be Tom Emmer, who, again, as we talked about, seems to be changing his tune a little bit now. And frankly, I will say he doesn't sound like somebody who just started to understand crypto. He did sound like he knows what he's talking about a bit.
It does, definitely.
Warren Davidson, I don't know where these people are from. Byron Donalds, Ted Budd, I think he's North Carolina because he just ran for something there. Darren Soto, Jake Auchincloss, Josh Gottheimer, and Richie Torres, pretty much split between Republicans and Democrats. So, a lot of times the elites are working together, as we have found over the years. But yeah, so read into that what you will, but those are the 8 that did try to stop the investigation into FTX. Are there any highlights that you've seen also? I mean, again, there's been so many clips kind of floating around. You mentioned Kevin O'Leary a minute ago. He is becoming, I don't even know what to call him at this point, but like the cringe level that I get whenever I hear him speak is now SBF level. I mean, it's just,
yeah.
I don't even know what to say about the guy. And like, sometimes I feel like when there are people that are like objectively more successful in life than I am, I just kind of defer, I think like, okay, who am I to criticize these people? But this guy, I just don't understand at this point. I mean, he clearly was in bed, not literally, I don't think, with SBF and this crew.
Maybe Caroline.
Maybe Caroline. I don't know. But yeah, don't go spreading rumors around. But yeah, I don't know. This guy just continues. So what you just said a minute ago, he literally, I guess it was today or yesterday, but while speaking at this hearing, in no uncertain terms, and I wish I could just play the audio, but it wouldn't be very good quality on here. Just said that he 100% believes and that everybody needs to understand that the FTX situation was a total takedown by CZ and Binance to take down FTX.
I don't buy that for a second.
Not at all. Now you can, give me your analysis of his framing of that, how he's even getting there. I mean, he's clearly getting there trying to like cover his own ass, but what do you make of this?
Well, I think there's more to that backstory as well. So I don't know if you know it or not. Kevin O'Leary has his own Canadian exchange, who was partnering with FTX as well. So they were doing some side deals, whatever they had going on in the background. When CZ came out, and basically this whole thing started, I think he said he was going to sell his FTT tokens that he had. He didn't,
right.
He was going to liquidate them. And when he said that, that's when the fear of God got put into those guys because they knew they probably didn't have the backing for it. And so that's what started the bank run. He talked about buying the exchange. He said he looked over the books and then he changed his mind, which added more fuel to the fire. But I don't think it was CZ's fault. I think he
would have happened anyway.
Well, it would have happened anyway, sooner or later. I think he just kind of made people aware of what was going on. I don't know that he took them down. Now, to Kevin O'Leary's point, he is the only, well, not the only, Coinbase is still there, Kraken's still there, Gemini is still there, but Binance is a major player. So when he did say they're one of the only and basically have a monopoly, it's not quite accurate, but I'm sure CZ's business will pick up because of it. Right. And then you see the bank run on Binance today. They they had like $3 billion net withdrawals. I think they had would they have 8 billion come out, 5 billion went in. So yeah, a total of a net $3 billion bank run that they had to stop withdrawals on this morning until the banks in New York opened, or
Right.
that was the excuse that they gave. And then at that point, they did open the withdrawals back up. So, I mean, it looks like that was, possibly true.
Hmm.
But still, I don't think that CZ really had anything to do with their downfall. I think they had everything to do with their own downfall. They
Right.
were clearly responsible for, commingling funds and having deposits go straight to Alameda instead of FTX. And, again, we've talked about this before. It was all derivatives. So there was no real coins. It was all spot. I mean, or not spot, but, they were derivative trading. So it wasn't even real to begin with.
Right.
So yeah, that's where we stand, and there's a long way to go. There's a lot more to come out. We'll see how it plays out, and I'm sure there'll be clips for days. I don't know how long this is going to last as far as hearing wise, but I'm sure it'll get more interesting before it's over.
Yeah, from some of the maybe more sensible people in the room. I mean, you never really know everything that's going on behind closed doors, but talking earlier about, man, I keep forgetting these people's names. Yeah, Tom Emmer. He did and again, we mentioned it a moment ago. It does seem that he actually understands decentralized finance, crypto. I mean, it seems like he actually does. But when speaking, I guess it was from today to what's the guy's name that is the CEO that's representing FTX? Is it Ray? What is his
Ray
last name?
Ray something. I forget what his last name is. I can probably
Yeah,
find.
I think his last name is Ray. Yeah, I'm trying to read it there, but I can't. But anyway, Tom Emmer basically, summed up and stated what everybody does need to know, that is looking at this situation from afar, and something that we obviously have known this situation is all along, and that's that this has nothing to do with cryptocurrency. This has to do with people that created an entity that was obviously corrupt for their own gain, to take other people's assets. It's a story that's as old as time. I mean, this is something that has happened in legacy finance year in and year out for decades on end, So and that's what Tom Emmer was really summing up, is this really doesn't have to do with crypto or decentralization. This was not decentralization,
Yeah,
obviously. I mean,
yeah.
it's yeah.
And there was another one too, Loomis, I think Cynthia
Yes,
Loomis.
Cynthia Loomis. Yeah,
Um,
she's always been great in
yeah,
terms of crypto. Yeah.
yeah, she made a comment to say, guys, remember, it's not cryptocurrency that is under fire here. It is the corruptness of the centralized entities. So that
Hmm.
was nice to hear, refreshing. It's good to hear some people with some common sense that kind of know what's going on,
Yes.
to pivot back when things may get out of line. So
Yes, it is always refreshing to hear that, especially from government entities like this, just because it's so rare that any of them do actually understand it. And it's just really important, these are definitely wins. I mean, like when you start to see more and more folks in government actually expressing that they understand what the purpose of crypto is, and talking about it as clearly as Tom Emmer and Cynthia Loomis did today. Yeah, I mean, it's
yeah.
definitely a positive sign. So,
And I want to touch on Marty's comment here. It says more
go ahead.
corruption coming out could mean more crypto crash. Your thoughts? Yeah, we think there's more coming. I don't know what the final catalyst will be for the next crash, the next leg down. I think it could have something to do with grayscale. To be honest,
Yeah, yeah,
they hit a 50% discount today, the highest discount they've ever had on their GBTC coin, or GBTC. It's a trust. It's not a
yeah.
coin. So 50% off. That means your 18,000 Bitcoin cost $9,000, essentially,
Hmm.
at a 50% discount. So I think that had something to do. They wanted to tie it into um, some sort of trading fund. My Andrew, who's in the chat here,
Yeah.
sent me article, and I didn't see it until just a little bit ago. But it said it had something to do with not getting permission to market it with the ETFs. So they denied that request, which kind of led to that 50% discount. So, it's one of the things Richard Hart says too, is we will not see a bottom until we get rid of this GBTC discount. But if everything goes sideways for Genesis, and these digital currency group needs to liquidate some of that fund or all of it, that could be the potential last leg down. So
that would be big.
We'll see. Yeah, that would be huge. That would be huge.
It would be big, and it would be in line with a lot of the other catalysts that we've seen the last few months, and the catalysts that we'll probably see in every bear market for crypto onward. And that's, the more legacy style finance that's coming into crypto failing, and being something that people react to. Just to sum up real quick on that Cynthia Loomis comment earlier, I was just looking at it here. She said digital assets are not on trial, fraud and organizations are on trial. So, and yeah, I mean, so that's essentially summing up the same thing we said. But to your point, Ewok, I definitely could see the grayscale thing being a catalyst. What we were talking about off air before we came on was that the people that are investing in that anyway aren't really the type of people, that's like a legacy, trust, a legacy fund that people that want to have exposure to crypto and, kind of pretend that they're owning Bitcoin,
right,
would buy. There's an expense ratio to it that goes to some kind of a fund manager. It's just like if investing in a mutual fund, and basically like a bastardized version of owning crypto. It's not really holding any crypto, but it would be certainly interesting because the type of people that would be investing in that right now aren't really the type of people that would actually be buying Bitcoin right now. I mean, they're the type of people that are lazily kind of, maybe I should say passively investing, thinking they're really getting exposure to crypto. And man, yeah, it would make a lot of sense for some kind of news to develop with that. It just because correct me if I'm wrong, but the grayscale price and the discount or where it actually is usually a harbinger of things to come for Bitcoin. Correct? I mean, it's usually
yeah. Yeah, and at a 50%, like you said, that's $9,000. Which, if this happens, we could easily get there. People have been calling for that anyway. 10K and pray.
Right. So, if something like that were to happen, it would definitely be big. So, we shall see. I mean, we've been talking about what could be the last huge catalyst to get us to that leg down. Again, I think this last couple of weeks of December, maybe it's the Christmas spirit. I don't know what it is, but a lot of people have seemed to, and I think it is maybe a not quite an end, but a start to the end of the FTX saga. People seem to think that the worst is behind us, but I'm still not quite there, much like you. I mean, I do think there's reasons to be positive, and actually that's going to allow me to transition into something I wanted to bring up that I'm glad I just remembered. So I don't know if you're familiar with him. I know there's a lot of Twitter people that you and I both follow on crypto Twitter. And one of them that I do, who is a trader, who I definitely value his opinion. I listen to a lot of the guys that, well, there only are like 3 of them, but that are on the Weekly Open podcast. I referenced Cred a couple of weeks ago. Don Alt is another one that I like on there. He's kind of a trader, but not necessarily like a day trader. I don't know. I like a swing trader, I guess. But he has been. I've listened to them for quite some time, and I kind of value their opinion. But I was reading a couple of tweets from him today, and he's kind of. I don't want to say been like floating out this bullish sentiment lately, because anybody that looks at the chart and trends and things like that can see that we still should be like extremely cautious right now. But in terms of like long-term DCAs, which we've talked about, the last few weeks on here, you're not necessarily doing something stupid, I don't think, if you're getting into the market right now or dollar cost averaging. But he had a couple of tweets today that I just wanted to read on air and kind of get your read on, Ewok. The first one he said is, as long as the stock market doesn't go to zero and as long as crypto doesn't get banned in America, I can't think of another catalyst to take this significantly below 15K. You make up your reasons for sub 12K. I'll just happily buy whatever you sell. I mean, the line that he said about I can't think of another catalyst to take this significantly below 15K.
There's a couple of them.
Well, define significant, I guess, is the thing. I mean, because if the bottom is 12K, I mean, I don't know. I guess that's significantly below 15K, but to me, it's kind of I'm probably a buyer at either one of those prices. But obviously, you disagree with him there. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a couple different events that could happen. You know, you've got Mt. Gox coins that could come out. You have Silk Road coins that could come out. You've got that's the Silk Road hacker. Ross Ulbricht's coins that were his from the Silk Road that the government
That's crazy. That's crazy that they're still out there. Yeah.
They're still out there and the government has them. You know, they took them basically and said, well, here's your restitution. But this is ours now.
It's a lot more money now. Yeah.
So, I mean, that could hit the market. There's a lot of things that could trigger this. So I don't know what he's talking about. There's no significant event that could happen. You've got the GBTC, who, yes, Andrew, they own like 5% of the total Bitcoin. They own 685,000 Bitcoin in their custody. So yes, I mean, that could, if they had to liquidate to make, you know, DCG solvent again or whatever it is, I see several events that could take us down there. So I mean, yeah, getting to that level, there are going to be people backing the truck up to buy it at those prices, which, you know, and like you said, yeah, it's not a bad idea to dip your toes in if you're not exposed to crypto at all. But I wouldn't go all in by any means. You know, no financial advice, but that's I wouldn't personally.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, and I didn't. So yeah, I do agree with you. And yeah, I guess in his defense, he said, I can't think of another catalyst to take this significantly below 15K. I mean, I guess the word significantly is all subjective to you. I agree with you. Yeah, I can identify what the catalysts might be. I guess it's just that where does that make the price go? I guess that's kind of what he's talking about. Yeah, which, you know, long term.
Well, what's 9,000 off of 15? That's a 60%.
That's
drop.
big. Well, that's big. Yeah.
So that's pretty significant in my book. I don't know about him, what he calls significant, but
I don't think he thinks it would go there. I think that's kind of what he's saying there. But
yeah.
And I'll be frank, I don't think it's going to go below 10. I hope it doesn't go below 10. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. And he followed it up with, and I am curious what you think about this, because this is something I've been hearing a lot lately, not just from him. But in regards to the SBF and the FTX stuff, am I the only one? He says, am I the only one that feels that the only reason we actually even went significantly sub 20K, I know you disagree with this, Ewok, is because Sam dumped our BTC on us and then proceeded to blow up one of the biggest exchanges in the space. I'm assuming everything sub 20K is a Sam discount that won't last forever. I know you disagree with that.
Yeah. I don't think so, because again, it's all derivatives, right? There was no Bitcoin hit the market. It was just people's funds that lost. There was no sale. So I don't know how that had anything to do. You know, there was no market sell on Bitcoin. There weren't people dumping Bitcoin because it wasn't real Bitcoin. So it really never hit the market. It was just people that put all their money in ended up with no money.
Yeah.
That's essentially what happened. So on a derivatives platform like that, there are no coins to really hit the market unless they were buying in the background to kind of cover, but I don't think they were, or I don't have any proof of that, and I shouldn't say they weren't, but
yeah,
I guess it's possible if they had enough exposure to Bitcoin that they did buy a little to kind of cover themselves in the background, but again, who knows?
Yeah, I am with you. I think we probably still would have been below 20K either way. I mean, yeah, it is. I think it's just that it's such a significant event to see an entire exchange go up like that, that people would connect those dots. But I thought it was interesting to read a couple. Again, I'm not really saying bullish, but just kind of not so. I mean, it's all in the charts. I mean, it's not a matter of like whether I feel negative or positive or whether anybody else feels negative or positive. It's about, macro things, looking at technical analysis. I think it's interesting to hear this point of view because, frankly, I'm not hearing it from many people that I would say I respect as much as him. So I was just intrigued by it. I'm intrigued to hear somebody's opinion like that because it is different, and I think
Sure.
it's important to kind of surround yourself with like all different amounts of opinions on this, taking it into account. But I am still with you. I think I'm somewhere between where Donald's coming from here and where you are, basically. So I like to be the middleman, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where I am on that. But did you have any other thoughts with this Binance scenario? Because a lot of people were like really spreading. I think we talked about this a little bit today. I don't think people understand like what the significance would be. I guess maybe it's just like this shock of FTX going down in November and people starting to think that it's just this normal for an exchange to just go under like this. Now, Binance is not FTX. Binance makes smarter financial decisions. CZ, has pretty proven track record of being certainly a better manager of his businesses and funds than Sam Bankman-Fried, of course. He's been through multiple cycles at this point, was very wise during the last bull market compared to a lot of the other exchanges and people with, aspirations of growing their businesses more in crypto. So, I mean, I don't think people really understood, like, Binance just going up in flames overnight like an FTX. Number one, wouldn't be that likely to happen. And number two, would be very, very bad. It's not just
Yeah.
like an exchange just goes out of business every month,
Right. I think they have way more capital. Don't
Yeah.
forget, they own CoinMarketCap. CZ owns a lot of other things as well. And now that I think about it, they really haven't been around that long. They didn't come into Binance was during the bull run of 2017.
Yeah. I remember they were
Is
around. Yeah.
that's when they kind of came to be, because I remember signing up with a Binance account.
Yeah, because you could get it in the US at that time, right? I
You
think it
could
was,
you
yeah.
could until they had to switch it to be a Binance US only. You
Hmm.
had to move all your coins over to the US platform at one point. And but yeah, so I mean, it hasn't been that long. I guess it has been almost 5 years, but still, it's not like they've been around as long as Coinbase by any means. Probably,
Right.
um, a few years before after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. It would be catastrophic for them to go down as well. I think it's much better managed. They have much more capital on hand to handle this. And even CZ himself said, bank runs are good every once in a while. It's to test the strength of what we have here, and see, as long as the assets can cover it, which they have so far. They only had a minor shutdown, and like I said, that was because they had to get more liquidity
Hmm.
from their New York banks. So, but I think it's a
Yeah.
good thing. People need to get their shit off the exchanges anyway. We've been saying that for how long? And I can't believe that there's still $3 billion sitting out there after
Yeah.
what just
Right.
happened. Like, people don't learn, and they're not learning, and I don't understand it. It just does. It doesn't. I'll never understand it.
I
And
won't either.
I
Yeah.
get it. If you're a day trader, if you need, moving stuff in and out does take time. You're going to miss things. For those type of people, they're degens anyway. That just trade. They're going to
Well,
probably
yeah.
end up losing their money anyway. So I don't feel sorry for them. But
Right.
for the normal folks, if you still have coins on exchanges, man, it is your own fault if something happens. I feel
Absolutely.
no. Everybody's been screaming it for the past month now. And if you still haven't learned, then it's your own damn fault.
Absolutely. I want to go back to what you said about day traders there because, yeah, that's something I've been thinking more and more about recently. And I know, although it's minuscule, well, you know what? I shouldn't say I know. It's not like I see their balance sheets or anything or their P&Ls or anything like that. But it does seem to be that there's a lot of volatility in crypto. So it would stand to reason that, you could maybe make some gains day trading in a market like this just because there is so much volatility compared to legacy markets. But I mean, do you just inherently feel, and we can call them degens just because they want more action and stuff like that, but literally more on let's say you actually understand the concepts of day trading and you've been successful at it for a long time. I still kind of agree with the premise that you're kind of saying right there too, Ewok, of like, yeah, but you still have to be tied to an exchange. I mean,
Yeah.
like you can have that skill or whatever, but like to make a decent living or to have a better profit loss, I'd imagine a good portion of your overall stack that you wouldn't want to lose is on an exchange for a good period of time. That's like you're always trading balance. Now, maybe you spread it out, amongst a few different exchanges or something like that. But to me, you and I actually value crypto. And I think most of the people will be watching or listening to this value crypto and have no interest in I'll just say it the easier way. They do have interest in custodying their own coins. Day traders, I don't think really give as much of a shit about like crypto or all those principles or anything like that. It's just about trading to make profit. But
Right.
to me, it's kind of a catch-22 because you shouldn't be leaving anything on an exchange just to do that either. Like I'm fundamentally in disagreement with that. So,
Right.
yeah.
It's really hard to do that and make money on a decentralized on a DEX because of the bots, because of the other thing. There's fees involved, but there's also bots and wash trading that happens on regular exchanges too. So I guess if you break down the math, it could be pretty close to about the same, profit loss ratio as far as trading on a DEX and a centralized exchange. So who knows?
Yeah, possibly. From what I understand, though, I mean, I don't think there's many people that are on DEXs actually doing day trading, or not the ones that seem to reveal themselves anyway, in the crypto Twitter space. So, enough of that and most of the macro talk. I think at this point, I mean, we're kind of in agreement with where we are seeing the market. I will say, the last time we kind of tried to forecast where we thought new lows, but I mean, we were dead set on November. I think we were pretty correct. Well, we were pretty correct as far as the year of 2022. So far, November has seen the lows. And then we kind of shifted to possibly right around Christmas time or around here after the next rate hikes and everything. With it being the 50 basis points, I think there's enough kind of positive, even though it's not very positive things happening in the market right now to maybe keep us above that for the rest of the year. And maybe shifting January to a part where we could see new lows potentially. I mean, it's kind of a moving target. It is always a moving target. That's just kind of what we're doing. But we haven't seen anywhere near enough to feel positive that this market is in an uptrend or anything like that yet. So
No, for sure.
Yeah. So for the last few minutes here, and it sucks that it's going to be the last few minutes, but there's just a lot of news we wanted to get to today. But this is probably also common knowledge, since we do talk so much about DeFi and HEX on this podcast. Both of you and I obviously are huge proponents of DeFi because that DeFi is basically synonymous with crypto. I mean, that's the entire point of it is owning your own coins.
Yeah.
But looking at utilities like a HEX, for example, or investing in crypto in any kind of a DeFi manner, earning yield on it strictly through DeFi, staying off exchanges. I said something earlier when we were talking about like goals of a bear market and what you're really hoping to achieve, especially in like a dangerous time right now in crypto. And it's really just, you sent me a clip of Trevon the other day talking about like, if you're still here right now in the market, and you've either already made it or you're definitely going to make it.
Yep.
Like if you've withstood this pressure so far. And it really is, as much as it sucks to be down for this long for so many people and see your portfolio, 50 to 90% down, drawdown. Getting out of this by still having all of your coins is a success,
Sure.
and that seems like a low bar. But we're seeing all of these landmines with all the crap that we've already talked about the rest of this podcast. But if you've been doing things the right way, custodying your own coins, earning yield on them, in a decentralized way, with something like HEX or using different DEXs on Phantom, which I talk a lot about as well, and you still have all of your coins, you really haven't lost. And if you haven't sold and capitulated, you really haven't lost either. So talk a little bit about that. Like it can suck so much to be so down on your portfolio, but if you still have the same coins, I know it's a cliche and it gets old, but it's like one Bitcoin is still one Bitcoin, one ETH is still one ETH, whatever it may be. Just talk about that, like to still have faith that, like, hey, if you still have X amount of HEX or whatever it is, you still have your coins. The price just happens to be lower right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the big thing, until you sell, you haven't lost anything. And if you feel like you bought too much at the top, well, it's a big discount. Buy more, lower
Mhm.
your entry point. Doing smart things like that, like Trevon said, if you're here, you've already made it, or you're about to in the next bull run. Um, you know, People look at crypto and they think it's easy. They see people
Yeah.
buying Lambos, they see all these models on yachts. There's a lot of things, and they get into it, and really, frankly, have no idea what they're doing. They don't know
Mhm.
the right habits, they don't know the right things to do. Usually make bad choices, and there's plenty of those available. Bad
Right.
decisions, bad platforms, bad exchanges. There's so many opportunities to make bad choices.
Mhm.
And the reason we're still around, um, doing what we're doing, is because we do care and we do put a lot of time into this. It's not easy. It's
Yeah.
not something that you just jump into and make a lot of money. I don't think people understand the amount of time, even myself, that I put in just watching content. I
Yeah.
listen
Right.
to YouTube videos and read articles and hear what other people are saying. And, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just put some money in and hope it goes up and hope for the best. That's not how it works. It's not easy. And I don't want people to have that misconception of it. There is a lot of work. There's a lot of emotional work also, not just
Mhm.
reading and research, but it's emotional. A lot of times
Yeah.
people get very down on themselves to see a portfolio down that much. But again, if you haven't sold, you haven't lost. So hang in there, and just know it does take work. It's not easy, but the longer you stick it out, the more things you learn, the more opinions you get from people that are doing it the right way. The better off we're all going to be. This space definitely needs that. It needs good education. It needs
Yeah.
to teach people the right way, and forget about what Congress is doing right now until they pass laws. It's not affecting us yet. If it even gets through, don't worry about that stuff. Continue to do the right things, even though they're talking very bearish on self custody and things like that. Well, that's because they can't get their piece of the pie when that happens. So keep that in
Mhm.
mind as well. Um, we just, again, stay strong. You've got to do it the right way, and it will pay off. And Trevon was totally right when he said that. You've either made it or you're about to. So keep your head up.
Yeah, yeah, and we are. That's the other message too. Is like if we're already down this far, and we've seen all the disasters we did in November. Let's say we do even go to 10K eventually. Is that really going to shake you out at this point? Like if you've seen your portfolio drop. Now, I will say, if you're not holding just Bitcoin, you're going to hold some alts. If Bitcoin goes to 10K, your alts are probably going to go down another 50% or so,
Probably quite
if not
possible.
more.
Yep.
Yeah. So get ready for that. So that's not nothing. I mean, that's not saying nothing, but at this point, if you're down that far, you might as well stick with it. And like you said, Ewok, you have to have that dry powder on the side. Like we always preach, be working on something else and have dry powder on the side, because that's going to help your capitulation, or I should say not capitulate so much. Like if you have that flexibility of other cash on the side, instead, while you may not be like completely happy, you can still kind of be licking your chops to say like, oh man, if I get that, you know, um, uh, 1.5 cent hex or something like that.
Yep.
Like I'm aping into it, just to be able to say that you did it and lower that cost basis so much. I mean, you're going to feel so much better if you have that big chunk of cash on the side to be able to take advantage of those prices. And there is something to be said. Like people need to realize, yeah, if you bought Hex at 45 cents or something, or if you bought Phantom at $3, or if you bought ETH at 4,000 or something like that. Some of the DCAs that you can do at these prices right now, you will see how much it lowers your cost basis. Like you will see how much your entry point will be, or how much it will significantly lower it by getting in at these prices. So yeah, it is cliche, but I think it is good to realize what the coins are that you have. Make sure they're things that you are interested in being invested in long term. And that's like 5 years or so in crypto, and just be focusing on the coins you have. And yeah, if you can earn a safe DeFi yield in the meantime, do it. That's why something like HEX is something you and I are both such a proponent of, because you can do that even in these times right now. And it does definitely balance people out a bit to be able to see that interest in HEX being paid back to them. I don't know if you saw it the other day, Ewok, but obviously somebody that we both value, Crypto Coffee, he's one of the chief HEX channels, I would say. I mean, he's got about 25K subs or so. He made just a really good, like 45-minute how to stake HEX in 2023 video the other night, which was a total return to basics. I mean, he clearly talks about way more advanced topics than that, but I think it's really important to get back to basics, even for veteran investors veteran investors in HEX and newcomers as well. I think it's good of him to make that video.
Yeah, for sure. And I was gonna right before you mentioned his name, I was gonna say something that Coffee had said one time, and that was, if you bought $1,000 at 48 cents of HEX, and then you turn around and bought another 1,000 at 3 cents, your average cost is down to 9 cents.
Yeah.
Just that alone is crazy to me. And so
it is. Go ahead.
No, it doesn't just cut it in half. It cuts it severely down. So it's something to think about, and be smart about it. Again, we never offer financial advice, but it is what it is. And if you do the math, you'll figure out that you don't want to buy that high and hold and then watch it go all the way. That's a long way to go back to be in profit. So if you can lower that entry point, things are much more enjoyable on the ride up, not just waiting till it gets to that point.
Because not only that, because you can, I know this is like a swear word in HEX terms, but you can also take profits on the way up as well, for whatever it is you're DCAing in. I mean, again, like Ewok said, not financial advice, but yeah, if you want to, like, as soon as you 2x or as soon as you get double your profit or something like that, maybe just take out the principal while you're riding it back up or something. I mean, then you can take advantage of dips on the way up and everything like that. So yeah, you're so right. Go ahead.
If you buy $1,000 at 3 cents and it does get to 6 or even 9 cents, you can pull your $1,000 out on just the money that you bought already. You're still in profit, and you still have house money that you're playing with at the same time. So, it's definitely a strategy to get money back out. Then you could wait until actually, you would be in profit. If you got to 9 cents, you've 3x'd your money.
Right.
You could take your initial 2,000 back out and still have another 1,000 of that original to play with. So
exactly, yeah. And it's a lesson too. I mean, like, for anybody that did get in, which is probably a lot of people, because the market was hot and it looked like it was still going to new all-time highs, like rather significantly, even in the fall of last year, like just a little over a year ago now. We were, the market was still hot. A lot of people still had their eyes on that 6-figure BTC. Obviously, none of that materialized really. In actually December of last year, we really started to see the downturn almost a calendar year ago. Maybe it was actually a year at this point. But like, if you've held on to that stuff and been a bag holder for that long, and you have experienced all the negative emotions that have come with the year of 2022, with those prices, you now know what it feels like. And you know that you never want to feel that again. So it becomes easier, I think, to buy at these prices, waiting for it to go back up, because it's so nice. I mean, like, you can have the confidence for the most part now, depending on what you're buying, or I do anyway, and the certain things I'm buying, that the prices I'm getting in at, I'm not going to see like these 80% losses at this point. I mean, like, most of it has already happened. So,
there is one thing I wanted to bring up too. I know we talked about the staking HEX and what T-shares were last week. There was something that had been brought to my attention a couple times that was a very big misconception And that is where it says effective hex. When you do your stake and you put in the amount, a lot of people think that that effective hex is what you'll make.
Right.
And it is not.
Right.
What that means, effective hex, is essentially when you do a longer stake. If you do, we'll just say 10,000 hex, and if you put it out for 15 years, it's going to tell you what your effective hex is. Basically, what that means is if you stake for 1 day, you are effectively, it's showing you what you would effectively take you to stake 1 day to get the same amount of T-shares for. I know that's a big misconception. People look at it and said, but my effective hex said it was this, and I didn't make anything close to that.
Right.
Well, no, that's not what it means. It's telling you how much a longer stake would effectively take to make the same on a shorter stake to get the same T-shares. So I did want to go over that, and I completely forgot about it last week when we were talking about it, but wanted
Yeah,
to add that in there.
funny enough, Crypto Coffee did actually bring that up in that video he was talking about the other day. Yeah, it's not necessarily a forecast of like the hex that you're actually going to get.
No, it is not at all. It has nothing to do with that.
Right. But the fact remains, I mean, you can't, that's why we've pitched a lot of these sites out there, and I always forget them when we get to this point, but the different hex stake calculation sites that you can do to just kind of get an idea. More of what you want to focus on is how many T shares you're getting, not like the amount of hex you'll definitely be getting. Just focus on the T shares. That's really what it's all about.
Sure. The amount of hex that you get is so unpredictable too, because you never know what the penalties are. You never know how much of the total supply will be staked. Therefore, how much hex per T-share you'll get per day. That is on a kind of nice trajectory going up, and it has been since the beginning. I think we started out at like four or 4.5 T-share, or hex per T-share per day, and now we're up to 6.1, 6.2. I think I haven't looked at it in a couple days, but it's right around there. So we're on a nice little trajectory to keep that going up. And someone said by the year 2028, I think we would be at 8 or 9 hex per T-share. So the more T-shares you can lock in now, the more that rate goes up. And that's what we said. It's almost like getting a compounded interest, because you're locking that rate in as the T-share rate goes up. Hex per T-share rate goes up daily over time as well. So
yeah, definitely a good time to be staked out in terms of anything that you're holding that you're confident in right now. For sure, it does alleviate the pressure of these markets. But Ewok and I both believe that there are further lows to come. We shall see. We've got 2 weeks left here in 2022, so they figure to be interesting ones. I'm sure we'll have a lot of developments when we are back here next Wednesday. That'll be the 21st, the last show before Christmas, and then the 28th, I guess, will then be the final show of the year. So maybe we'll have a little party that night. That should be interesting. But we're going to wrap it up here. This has been the Creative Crypto. I am Broke Boi Crypto. You can find me on YouTube and Twitter at Broke BOI Crypto. Ewok, do you have any closing thoughts at all, or I think we pretty much covered everything here?
Yeah, we covered everything. I was going to talk about that Trevon video and kind of go into that little rant for my closing segment, but no, we already did. We covered it. You brought it up and nicely, we covered what I wanted to say.
Telepathy there.
You must have known what I was going to talk about. So,
well, hey, it was good encouragement for me, honestly, too. It is good. Trevon is somebody that I respect too, because he's, regardless of what anybody has to say about him, I really don't care about any negative opinions or anything. I have always liked the guy. I think he's hilarious. And I respect an opinion of a guy like him who has been around, and you want to talk about landmines stepped in. For a guy that has been through as much as him in crypto, caught as much crap as he has, I really value like what he has to say about, any words of encouragement from a guy like him, I think are really, they should be heeded, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, he kind of brought some of that on himself. He was a big promoter of BitConnect. Like many of us that were around then.
Right.
He just made a shit ton of money on referrals. Um,
Right.
so he probably got out with a lot more money and than most people that were in it, and I think that's why there was so much bitterness
Right.
towards him. He served his time. He paid his fine. He's still probably paying his fines from that
Yeah.
because he did get involved with the SEC, and he's taken a lot of lumps because of it. So he
Yeah.
hasn't had it easy, but yes, he's been around. He knows. Um, he does know a lot of what he's talking about. Some of the things he does are that degen mentality that we talk about sometimes, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, sentimentally, he knows what he's talking about. He's been there and gone through a lot of the same stuff that many of us did during that time. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely a fan. Well,
yeah,
hey, that will wrap up this week's episode of the Creative Crypto. Again, we'll catch you all next Wednesday, December the 21st, 8 p.m. We hear every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So until then, we will see you on the Creed of Crypto podcast.